The sound of a crystal wine glass shattering against the imported marble floor silenced the entire room. At table 4 of the Gilded Oak, one of Chicago's most exclusive restaurants, a 4-year-old boy was screaming at the top of his lungs. His face was red, his tears were endless, and the entire lunch crowd was staring with undisguised disdain. Grant Harrington, the CEO of Harrington Tech, looked like he wanted the floor to swallow him whole. But it wasn't the embarrassment that broke him. It was the helplessness. Then, a waitress with frayed sneakers and a kind smile walked through the tension. She didn't bring a manager. She didn't bring security. She brought a whispered secret that would bring a billionaire to his knees and change 4 lives forever. The lunch rush at the Gilded Oak was not for the faint of heart. It was a place where deals worth millions were signed over plates of truffle risotto, and where the clinking of silverware was usually the loudest noise in the room. Jenna adjusted her apron, hiding the coffee stain near the hem. Her feet throbbed inside her cheap, black, non-slip shoes. She had been on her feet for 6 hours straight, covering for a co-worker who had called out sick again. Jenna needed the overtime. Her rent was 3 days late, and her landlord, Mr. Henderson, wasn't known for his patience. Table 4 needs water. The floor manager, a sharp-nosed man named Mr. Calloway, barked at her as he walked past, checking his watch. "And tell them to keep it down. People are complaining." Jenna glanced over at table 4. It was the prime spot, usually reserved for politicians or celebrities. Today, it was occupied by a man who looked like he carried the weight of the world on his tailored Brioni suit jacket. This was Grant Harrington. Even Jenna, who rarely had time to watch the news, recognized him. He was the heir to the Harrington empire, real estate, tech, shipping. If it made money, the Harringtons owned it. Sitting opposite him was a woman who looked like she had stepped out of a Vogue editorial. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a severe, perfect bun, and her white Chanel blouse looked like it cost more than Jenna made in a year. This was Tiffany, Grant's fiancée, a socialite known more for her Instagram following than her charity work. But the center of attention was the small boy in the high chair between them, Noah. He was 4 years old, wearing a miniature polo shirt that was currently soaked with tears. He was shrieking, a high-pitched, terrified wail that grated on the nerves of every patron in the establishment. "Noah, please," Grant pleaded, running a hand through his dark hair. "Just eat the pasta. It's your favorite." "No, no, no!" the boy screamed, swiping his arm across the table. A silver fork went flying, clattering loudly onto the floor. "Grant, this is ridiculous," Tiffany hissed, looking around the room. Her face was flushed, not with concern, but with humiliation. "Can't you control him? Everyone is staring at us. You promised this would be a nice lunch." "He's hungry, Tiffany. He's tired," Grant snapped back, though his voice lacked conviction. He looked exhausted. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. He picked up a napkin and tried to wipe Noah's face, but the boy recoiled as if he had been burned. "I want Mommy," Noah wailed, the words tearing through the sophisticated atmosphere like a jagged knife. The air around the table froze. Grant stiffened. Tiffany rolled her eyes, picking up her wine glass. "Oh, here we go again. Grant, tell him to stop. It's been 2 years. He doesn't even remember her." Jenna approached the table with a pitcher of water, her heart aching. She knew that cry. It wasn't a tantrum. It was grief. "Is everything all right, sir?" Jenna asked softly, placing fresh napkins on the table. Tiffany glared at her. "Does it look all right? We are trying to have a meal and this child is impossible. Can you get him some crayons or something? Anything to shut him up?" "Tiffany," Grant warned, his voice low. "What? I'm the only one being realistic here, Grant. He's ruining everything." Noah let out another ear-piercing scream, his face turning a blotchy purple. He kicked his legs, hitting the table leg repeatedly. A man at the neighboring table, wearing a heavy gold Rolex, slammed his napkin down. "Manager, we can't eat with this racket!" Grant looked panicked. He reached for Noah's arm. "Noah, stop it right now. You are behaving like a baby." Jenna saw the terror in the little boy's eyes. He wasn't misbehaving. He was overwhelmed. Without thinking, ignoring the protocol that said waitresses should be seen and not heard, Jenna stepped closer. She set the water pitcher down on the side station and knelt on the dirty floor, right next to the high chair, putting herself at eye level with the screaming child. "Hey there," Jenna whispered. Her voice was calm, contrasting sharply with the chaos. Noah paused for a microsecond, startled by the stranger near his face. He hiccuped, tears streaming down his cheeks. "I bet it's really loud in here, isn't it?" Jenna said, ignoring Tiffany's scoff. She didn't touch him. She just looked at him with warm brown eyes. "And all these people are looking at you. It's scary." Noah sniffled, his chest heaving. He looked at Jenna, really looked at her. Jenna reached into her apron pocket. She wasn't supposed to have personal items on the floor, but she always kept a small, smooth river stone in her pocket, a worry stone her grandmother had given her. "Look at this," she whispered, holding the smooth grey stone in her palm. "This is a magic stone. When I'm sad, or when I miss someone really bad, I hold it tight and it takes the scary feelings away." Noah's eyes widened. He reached out a trembling hand. "Can I hold it?" he whispered, his voice hoarse from screaming. "Only if you promise to take a deep breath with me," Jenna smiled. Noah took the stone. He clutched it in his small fist. He took a shuddering breath. The screaming stopped. The silence that followed was deafening. Jenna stood up, brushing the dust off her knees. She looked at Grant, who was staring at her with his mouth slightly open. "He's not a bad kid, sir," Jenna said softly, making sure her voice didn't carry to the other tables. "And he's not hungry for food." She looked at the boy, who was now rubbing the stone against his cheek, eyes closing. "He just needs a mum," Jenna said. "He's looking for that softness, the noise here. It's too hard. He needs to know he's safe." Grant felt a lump form in his throat. He looked at his son, then at Tiffany, whose face was hard and annoyed, and then at this waitress in a stained apron who had achieved in 30 seconds what he hadn't been able to do in months. "Thank you," Grant breathed. "I'll bring some warm milk with honey. It helps," Jenna said, turning to leave. "Excuse me?" Tiffany's voice cut through the moment like a whip. "Did you just give my future stepson a dirty rock? From your pocket?" Jenna froze. "It's sanitized, Mum. I wash it every—" "I don't care!" Tiffany snapped, standing up. "Grant, take that filthy thing away from him. And you," she pointed a manicured finger at Jenna, "you overstepped. We didn't ask for a therapy session from the help." "Tiffany, stop!" Grant said, but Tiffany was already waving her hand in the air, summoning Mr. Calloway. "Manager, over here, immediately!" Jenna's heart sank. She looked at Noah, who was looking at her with fear returning to his eyes. She had stopped the crying, but she had just started a war she couldn't afford to fight. Mr. Calloway descended on table 4 like a vulture spotting a carcass. He smoothed his tie, a fake smile plastered on his face as he addressed Grant and Tiffany. "Is everything satisfactory, Mr. Harrington?" "Miss Roberts?" "No, it is not," Tiffany declared, her voice carrying enough authority to silence the nearby tables again. She pointed a long, acrylic nail at Jenna. "This waitress is incompetent and rude. She gave a dirty object to a child, exposing him to germs, and then proceeded to lecture us on parenting. It's completely unacceptable." Jenna stood there, her hands clasping her apron. Mr. Calloway, the boy was upset. I just gave him a worry stone to calm him down. He stopped crying. She called us bad parents. Tiffany lied smoothly, crossing her arms. She said the boy is miserable because of us. Grant, tell him. Grant looked conflicted. He looked at Noah, who was still clutching the stone, quiet and peaceful for the first time all day. Tiffany, that's not exactly what she said. She helped him. Oh, so you're taking her side? Tiffany's eyes narrowed dangerously. The woman who just insulted me in front of the entire restaurant? Grant, if you don't handle this, I will call your mother. You know how she feels about the reputation of the Harrington name being dragged through the mud by incompetent staff. The mention of his mother seemed to shrink Grant. He was a billionaire, a CEO, but the family dynamics of the Harringtons were complicated, filled with board members and public relations nightmares. He sighed, rubbing his temples. I just want to eat lunch, Tiffany. Mr. Calloway? Tiffany turned her attention back to the manager. I don't think I can eat here, knowing that she is handling the food. It's unhygienic, and frankly, insulting. Mr. Calloway turned to Jenna. His face was cold. He didn't care about the truth. He cared about the Harrington account. They hosted their corporate Christmas party here every year. That one booking paid the rent for 3 months. Jenna, Calloway barked. Office. Now. But Mr. Calloway, look at the boy, Jenna pleaded, gesturing to Noah. He's fine. I didn't mean any harm. I don't pay you to be a nanny, and I certainly don't pay you to offend our VIPs, Calloway hissed. Get your things. You're done. Fired? Jenna's voice cracked. Please, I need this job. My rent is due. I'll apologize. I'll do the dishes for a week. Please. Now! Calloway pointed to the back. Grant started to stand up. Wait a minute, Calloway, that's harsh. Grant, sit down. Tiffany grabbed his wrist, her voice dropping to a harsh whisper. Do not make a scene over a waitress. Think of the press. Billionaire defends rude server. Is that the headline you want before the merger? Grant hesitated. In that moment of hesitation, Jenna looked at him. Her eyes weren't angry. They were disappointed. She gently unclasped the stone from Noah's hand, though the boy whimpered when she took it back. You keep it, buddy, she whispered to the boy, pressing it back into his palm. Be brave. She turned and walked toward the kitchen, her head high, though her vision was blurry with tears. Grant watched her go. He felt a sickness in his stomach that had nothing to do with the food. He looked at Noah. The boy was holding the grey stone against his chest, rocking slightly back and forth. Well, that's handled, Tiffany said, picking up the menu as if nothing had happened. I'll have the lobster salad, and get the boy a new fork. This one touched the floor. Grant didn't order. He stared at the kitchen door. 10 minutes later, Jenna walked out of the back alley entrance of the Gilded Oak. She was wearing her street clothes, a faded denim jacket and jeans. She held a small cardboard box with her few belongings, a spare pair of laces, a bottle of ibuprofen, and a photo of her late parents. She sat on the curb near the dumpsters, burying her face in her hands. It was snowing lightly in Chicago, the flakes melting on her worn jacket. Stupid, she muttered to herself. Stupid Jenna. Why do you always have to get involved? Suddenly, the heavy steel door of the restaurant kitchen swung open. Grant Harrington stepped out. He wasn't wearing his coat. He looked out of place in the dirty alleyway in his expensive suit. Miss, he called out. Jenna looked up, wiping her eyes quickly. She stood up, defensive. I'm leaving. I'm off the property. Wait. Grant walked toward her, stepping over a puddle of slush. I wanted to apologize for Tiffany and for my manager. That was wrong. It doesn't change anything, Jenna said, hugging herself against the cold. I'm still fired, and I still don't have rent money. Grant reached into his suit pocket and pulled out a checkbook. I can fix that. How much do you need? Jenna's eyes flashed with anger. I don't want your charity, Mr. Harrington, and I don't want hush money. It's not hush money, Grant said, looking surprisingly vulnerable. Look, my son, Noah. Since his mother died, he hasn't connected with anyone. Nannies, therapists, family. He screams at everyone. Today, with you, was the first time in 2 years I saw him stop. Jenna softened slightly. He's a sweet boy. He's just grieving. Kids grieve differently than adults. They don't have the words. You said he needs a mum, Grant said, stepping closer. Tiffany. She tries, but she's not. She's not a mother, Jenna finished for him. She didn't add, she's a monster, though she thought it. I have a proposition, Grant said, his business persona sliding back into place, though his eyes remained kind. I need a nanny. A live-in nanny. The last one quit 3 days ago because she couldn't handle the screaming. Jenna laughed, a dry, humorless sound. Mr. Harrington, I'm a waitress. I have no degree in child development. And your fiancée just got me fired. I don't think she wants me in your house. Tiffany doesn't decide who takes care of my son. I do, Grant said firmly, though Jenna sensed a hidden struggle there. The pay is $4,000 a week, room and board included. You'd have your own suite in the guest wing. Jenna's jaw dropped. $4,000 a week? That would pay off her debts in a month. It would change her life. Why? She asked. You don't even know me. Noah kept the stone, Grant said quietly. He fell asleep at the table holding it. That's why. Jenna looked at the billionaire, then at the dirty alleyway, then at the snow falling on her cheap shoes. She thought about her landlord's angry voicemails. When do I start? Pack your things, Grant said, shivering slightly in the cold. My driver will pick you up at your apartment in 2 hours. Welcome to the Harrington estate, Jenna. As Grant turned to go back inside, neither of them noticed the flash of a camera from a parked car across the street. Tiffany sat in the driver's seat of her red Porsche, her phone lowered, a look of pure venom on her face. You think you can embarrass me, and then hire her behind my back, Grant? She whispered to the empty car. Let's see how long she lasts. The ride from her cramped studio apartment in Pilsen to the affluent suburb of Lake Forest felt like traveling between 2 different planets. Jenna sat in the back of the elongated black Mercedes Maybach, her small duffel bag looking comically cheap against the hand-stitched Italian leather seats. The driver, a stoic man named Marcus, had said nothing since loading her 2 cardboard boxes into the trunk. Jenna watched the city skyline recede, replaced by winding roads bordered by manicured hedges and towering oak trees. She was terrified. $4,000 a week. It was an amount of money that felt imaginary to her. But it wasn't the money that made her stomach churn. It was the impulsive decision to uproot her life based on a 5-minute interaction with a grieving billionaire and his furious fiancé. She touched the empty pocket of her jeans where the worry stone used to be. She hoped it was working for Noah. The car slowed as it approached a massive wrought-iron gate adorned with a stylized H. The gates swung open slowly, revealing a winding driveway that led up to the Harrington estate. It wasn't a house. It was a limestone chateau that looked like it had been transported piece by piece from the French countryside. It was beautiful, imposing, and utterly cold. As the car came to a stop atop the circular driveway, the massive oak front doors opened. Grant stood there, having shed his suit jacket for a cashmere sweater that probably cost more than Jenna's car. He looked less corporate, but the weariness in his eyes remained. "Welcome, Jenna," Grant said, offering a polite smile as she climbed out of the car. "I hope the ride was comfortable." "It was nicer than my apartment," Jenna managed a weak joke, shouldering her bag. "Marcus will take your things to the East Wing suite," Grant said. "Come inside. Noah is in the playroom. He's been asking about the lady with the rock." Jenna felt a spark of hope. He remembered. But before they could step inside, a sharp clicking of heels against marble echoed through the towering foyer. Tiffany emerged from a side parlor. She was dressed in a white Givenchy jumpsuit that looked tailor-made for an ambush. Her blonde hair was looser now, framing a face that was perfectly made up and entirely unwelcoming. "So, she actually showed up," Tiffany said, swirling a glass of pale liquid. Vodka, Jenna guessed, despite it being only 4:00 p.m. She didn't look at Jenna. She looked at Grant. "Grant, I still think this is a colossal mistake. A background check takes 48 hours. You picked a stranger off the street." "Tiffany, we discussed this," Grant said, his jaw tightening. "Jenna is here on a trial basis. Let's give her a chance, for Noah's sake." Tiffany turned her icy gaze toward Jenna, looking her up and down with undisguised distaste, lingering on her worn sneakers. "Fine. But let's get one thing straight. You are an employee. You are here to ensure the child doesn't embarrass us, not to be his mother. Do not confuse the two." "I understand, Miss Roberts," Jenna said quietly, refusing to be baited. "It's Mrs. Harrington to be," Tiffany corrected sharply. "And there are rules. Noah is on a strict routine, organic, low-sugar diet only. Bedtime is 7:30 sharp, no exceptions, no loud noises, no cheap plastic toys, and absolutely no filling his head with nonsense about magic rocks." "Tiffany," Grant warned. "I'm just setting boundaries, darling." Tiffany smiled sweetly at Grant before turning back to Jenna, her expression hardening instantly. "If you upset him, if you disrupt our lives, you will be out on the street faster than you can say severance package. Do we understand each other?" "Perfectly," Jenna said, holding her gaze. She had dealt with difficult customers for years. Tiffany was just a richer version with better shoes. "Good. The nursery is upstairs, second door on the left. Try not to break anything on the way up." Tiffany took a sip of her drink and turned on her heel, walking back into the parlor. Grant sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "I apologize. She's very protective of our image." "It's okay, Mr. Harrington. Show me to Noah." They ascended a grand staircase that curved upward like something out of Gone with the Wind. The house was silent. There was no music, no laughter, no scent of food cooking. It felt like a museum where nobody was allowed to touch the exhibits. When they reached the nursery door, Grant hesitated. "He's been in here since we got back from the restaurant. He refused to let the afternoon nanny come in." Grant pushed the door open softly. The room was enormous, bigger than Jenna's entire apartment. It was decorated in tasteful, muted blues and greys. There were shelves filled with artisanal wooden toys that looked like they had never been played with. A massive, customized train set sat silent in the corner. In the center of a large, plush cream rug sat Noah. He was still wearing his tear-stained polo shirt from lunch. His back was to the door, his small shoulders hunched forward. "Noah," Grant said softly. "Buddy, look who's here." Noah didn't move. Jenna stepped past Grant, entering the room slowly. She didn't stand over the boy. She knelt down on the rug a few feet away, just as she had in the restaurant. "Hi, Noah," she whispered. The little boy stiffened. Slowly he turned his head. His eyes were red-rimmed, dark pools of exhaustion and wariness in his small face. He looked at Jenna, unsure. Then his gaze dropped to Jenna's hand, resting on her knee. It was empty. Noah slowly uncurled his own small fist. Lying in the center of his palm was the smooth, grey river stone. A small, tentative smile touched Jenna's lips. "You kept it safe." Noah nodded mutely. He looked from the stone to Jenna, then back to the stone. He took a shaky breath, then held his hand out toward her, offering it back. Jenna felt her throat tighten. "No, sweetie. That's yours now. Remember. For the scary feelings." Noah stared at her for a long, agonizing moment. Then he scrambled to his feet and launched himself at her, burying his face in the cheap denim of her jacket. He didn't cry this time. He just held on with a desperate, crushing grip, as if she were a life raft in the middle of a freezing ocean. Jenna wrapped her arms around the small frame, rocking him gently. Over Noah's head, she saw Grant standing in the doorway. The billionaire CEO looked utterly lost, his eyes shimmering with unshed tears as he watched a stranger provide the comfort he hadn't been able to give his own son. For Jenna, in that moment, the intimidating house and the venomous fiancé didn't matter. Only the trembling little boy in her arms did. She had entered the lion's den, but she knew with absolute certainty that she was exactly where she was supposed to be. The first week at the Harrington estate was a study in psychological warfare. Jenna quickly learned that Tiffany's primary occupation, aside from planning a wedding that seemed more like a coronation, was ensuring Jenna failed. Tiffany didn't work. She managed her social standing and curated Grant's life. Jenna was an unexpected stain on that curation, one Tiffany was determined to bleach out. Jenna's strategy was simple. Focus on Noah. The boy was severely emotionally malnourished. He was starving for warmth, for tactile affection, for someone to just be with him without demanding performance or quiet. The morning of day 4 started like the others. Jenna woke up in her luxurious guest suite, which felt wrong, the sheets too silky, the silence too deep, and dressed quickly in practical jeans and a soft sweater. She went down to the kitchen before the staff arrived, wanting to make Noah breakfast herself. She found the kitchen, a gleaming expanse of stainless steel and marble meant for catering staff, not cozy family meals. She rummaged through the massive sub-zero fridges until she found eggs, flour, and blueberries. By the time Noah padded down the stairs in his pajamas, holding the grey stone tight in one hand, the kitchen smelled of warm blueberry pancakes and vanilla. Noah stopped in the doorway, sniffing the air. His eyes, usually dull in the mornings, brightened. "Pancakes," he whispered. "Good morning, sunshine." Jenna smiled, flipping a pancake high in the air. "Special delivery for Mr. Noah. Want to help me put the berries on top?" Noah hesitated, looking around as if expecting someone to shout at him. When silence greeted him, he crept toward the island and climbed onto a stool. For 10 minutes, they made happy, messy faces on pancakes with fruit. Noah actually giggled, a rusty, quiet sound, when Jenna put a whipped cream beard on his pancake. The piece was shattered by the click of heels. Tiffany swept into the kitchen, wearing a silk dressing gown and holding her phone, already on a conference call with her wedding planner. She stopped dead, lowering the phone, staring at the scene with disgust. "What is that smell?" Tiffany demanded, wrinkling her nose. "Breakfast," Jenna said cheerfully, placing a plate in front of Noah. Tiffany stalked over to the island and peered at the plate. "Pancakes? Are those white flour? And sugar? It's just a treat, Ms. Roberts. He likes them," Jenna said, sensing the shift in Noah's demeanor. The boy shrank back against the stool. "I told you, organic, low-sugar diet only," Tiffany snapped. Before Jenna could react, Tiffany grabbed the plate of pancakes and dumped them directly into the trash compactor. Noah let out a sharp gasp, his eyes filling with instant tears. "That is poison for his system," Tiffany declared, dusting her hands off. She went to the pantry and pulled out a cardboard box of greenish, fibrous flakes. She poured some into a bowl with almond milk and slammed it in front of Noah. "Eat your muesli. It's brain food." "Tiffany, that was cruel," Jenna said, her voice low but shaking with anger. "He was happy." "He needs discipline, not sugar," Tiffany retorted, turning back to her phone. "Don't undermine me again, Nanny." Noah looked at the grey sludge in his bowl. Tears dripped off his chin. He clutched the stone under the table. He didn't eat. This became the pattern. If Jenna took Noah outside to play in the leaves, Tiffany would appear, claiming it was too cold, and he would catch pneumonia, dragging him back into the sterile playroom. If Jenna read him a story with funny voices that made him smile, Tiffany would interrupt, saying the book wasn't on the approved educational list and replacing it with dry flashcards. Tiffany was gaslighting the child, making him feel that joy was misbehavior and that Jenna was the cause of trouble. But the worst incident happened on Saturday evening. Grant was home, surprisingly, having finished a conference call early. He was in the library, nursing a scotch. The house felt tense. A massive charity gala was coming up, and Tiffany was manic about the preparations. Jenna had managed to get Noah bathed and into his pajamas without a meltdown. They were sitting on the rug in his room, building a tower with wooden blocks. The atmosphere was calm. Noah was focused, his tongue sticking out slightly as he placed a block on top. "Careful," Jenna whispered, smiling. "Steady." "Well, isn't this cozy?" Tiffany stood in the doorway. She was dressed for dinner, diamonds glittering at her throat. She held a bright, flashing rectangular object in her hand. "Look what I bought you, Noah," Tiffany said, her voice sickeningly sweet, a tone she only used when Grant was nearby. She walked in and handed Noah a brand new iPad, booming with chaotic, loud cartoon noises. Noah flinched at the sudden noise. The delicate block tower tumbled to the ground with a loud clatter. "It's the new Mega Racer game," Tiffany said loudly over the noise of the tablet. "Much better than these boring old blocks, right?" The sensory overload was instant. Noah dropped the iPad. He covered his ears, his face scrunching up in pain. The scream started low in his chest and erupted, the same terrifying wail from the restaurant. "No, no, too loud, stop it!" Noah shrieked, kicking out. Grant came running from the library, his face pale. "What's happening? I thought he was calm." "I don't know," Tiffany cried, playing the victim perfectly. She backed away, clutching her chest. "I just tried to give him a nice gift, a new educational game, and he just snapped. He threw it at me." "He didn't throw it," Jenna said, standing up, trying to be heard over Noah's screams. "It was too loud. He was overstimulated. We were winding down for bed. Tiffany knows that." Tiffany spun on Grant, her eyes wide with fake tears. "See? She blames me. Every time he acts up, it's my fault according to her. Grant, I'm trying so hard to bond with him, and she's turning him against me." Grant looked between the screaming child, his sobbing fiancée, and the determined nanny. The exhaustion on his face deepened. He didn't want to deal with this. He wanted peace. "Jenna!" Grant shouted over the noise. "Why isn't he in bed? It's past 7:30. "We were just getting there, Mr. Harrington." The noise startled him. "Tiffany was just trying to be nice," Grant said, regurgitating the narrative Tiffany fed him daily. "You need to manage his reactions better. That's why you're here." Jenna felt like she had been slapped. Tiffany smirked behind Grant's back, a quick, venomous flash of victory before returning to her aggrieved pose. Jenna knelt down to Noah, ignoring the adults. "Noah, look at me. Where's the stone? Let's find the stone." Noah was frantic, patting his pajama pockets. "Gone! It's gone!" His panic escalated into hysteria. Jenna scanned the floor. It wasn't there. It had been in his pocket 10 minutes ago. She looked up and caught Tiffany's eye. Tiffany was smoothing her diamond necklace, a smug, satisfied look on her face. She took it. Jenna realized with sickening clarity. Tiffany had created the chaos with the iPad, and in the confusion, she had stolen the boy's only comfort object. "Grant, she needs to go," Tiffany wailed. "This environment is toxic with her here. He's getting worse." Grant looked down at his screaming son, then at Jenna. "Jenna, maybe Tiffany is right. Maybe this isn't working. If you can't control him." Jenna stood up slowly. The injustice burned in her veins, but she couldn't prove anything. "Not yet." "I'll handle him," Jenna said ice-coldly to Tiffany. "Excuse us." She scooped up the thrashing boy and carried him into the adjoining bathroom, shutting the door on Grant and Tiffany. She sat on the closed toilet lid, holding Noah tight, humming a low, steady tune against his ear until the screams turned into exhausted sobs. "She took it," Noah hiccuped into her neck. "The bad lady took my magic." "I know, baby," Jenna whispered fiercely into his hair. "I know she did. But we're going to get it back. I promise." That night, Jenna didn't sleep in the guest silk sheets. She sat in a chair by Noah's bed, watching him sleep fitfully. She realized this wasn't just a job anymore. It was a rescue mission. And she was going to need more than just warmth and patience to defeat Tiffany Roberts. She was going to need to fight back. The annual Harrington Hope Foundation Gala was the social event of the season. Tickets cost $5,000 a plate, and the guest list was a who's who of Chicago's elite, senators, tech moguls, and old money families who had owned the city since the fire. For Tiffany, this was her Super Bowl. It was her official debut as the future Mrs. Harrington, the matriarch of the empire. For Noah, it was a sentence to a torture chamber. The morning of the gala, the house was a hive of frantic activity. Florists were hauling in massive arrangements of white lilies, Tiffany's favorite, though Grant was allergic. Makeup artists and stylists occupied the guest suites. Jenna had been effectively banished to the nursery. Tiffany had made it clear, Jenna was not to be seen, heard, or acknowledged. "We have a professional coming," Tiffany had sneered over her morning kale smoothie. "A celebrity child handler, someone who knows how to make a child look presentable for cameras. You can take the night off. Ideally, off the premises." Jenna didn't leave. She sat in the corner of the nursery while the handler, a stern woman named Ms. Grist with a grip like a vice, forced Noah into a miniature tuxedo that was clearly too tight. "It itches," Noah whimpered, scratching at his neck. "Stop fidgeting," Ms. Grist snapped, slapping his hand away. "Beauty is pain, little man." Jenna bit her tongue so hard she tasted copper. She caught Noah's eye. He looked terrified. Without his worry stone, which was still missing, he was vibrating with anxiety. He kept tapping his thumb against his palm, a phantom comfort that wasn't there. At 4 p.m., Grant came in to check on them. He looked dashing in his tuxedo, but his face was grey with fatigue. "He looks great," Grant said, hollowly, adjusting his cufflinks. "Is he ready?" "He's scared, Grant," Jenna said, breaking her silence. She stood up. "He shouldn't go. It's loud, there are flashing lights, it's past his bedtime. It's a recipe for disaster." "He has to go." Tiffany's voice drifted in from the hallway before she appeared. She was breathtaking in a custom silver Versace gown that hugged every curve, looking like a dangerous, beautiful mercury spill. "It's the family photo op, Grant. The board needs to see a stable family unit. Stocks are wobbly." She walked over to Noah, inspecting him like a piece of livestock. She licked her thumb and aggressively wiped a smudge from his cheek. "Listen to me, Noah," Tiffany said, her voice low and threatening. "Tonight you will smile. You will wave. You will not cry. If you embarrass me tonight, that raggedy nanny of yours goes to jail. Do you understand? I'll tell the police she stole from me." Noah's eyes went wide. He looked at Jenna in panic. "Tiffany!" Grant exclaimed, though he didn't move to stop her. "That's enough." "I'm motivating him, darling," she smiled, linking her arm through Grant's. "Let's go. The limo is waiting." Jenna stepped forward. "I should come, just in case he needs." "You!" Tiffany pointed a manicured finger at Jenna. "Stay here. If I see your face at the Drake Hotel, you're fired immediately. Come, Grant." They left. The silence that followed was suffocating. Jenna paced the nursery. She couldn't shake the feeling of dread. She thought about Noah's terrified face. She thought about the threat. "She stole from me." A thought struck Jenna like a lightning bolt. Tiffany was projecting. Jenna ran to the master bedroom suite. She knew it was forbidden. She knew cameras were likely watching. She didn't care. She went straight to Tiffany's side of the massive walk-in closet. It smelled of expensive leather and secrets. She opened the jewelry drawer. Diamonds, emeralds, sapphires, thousands of dollars of gems lay there. But Jenna was looking for something else. She rummaged through the velvet boxes. Nothing. She checked the trash can in the vanity. Nothing. Then she saw it. On the high shelf, tucked behind a stack of Hermes scarves, was a small, locked lucite box. It was where Tiffany kept her special supplements. The key was in the lock. Jenna turned it and opened the box. Inside wasn't jewelry. It was a bottle of liquid antihistamine, a strong sedative, and lying next to it, mocked by the expensive surroundings, was the smooth, grey river stone. Jenna grabbed the stone, her hand shaking with rage. Tiffany hadn't lost it. She had taken it as a trophy, a way to control the boy by taking his only source of comfort. And the sedative? Jenna checked the bottle. It was half empty. "She's drugging him," Jenna whispered to the empty room. "She's drugging him to keep him quiet." Jenna looked at the clock. 5:30 p.m. The cocktail hour was starting. She didn't have a gown. She didn't have an invitation. She didn't have a car. The estate was miles from the city. She ran downstairs to the garage. The main cars were gone. The only thing left was the groundskeeper's old, rusted Ford truck. The keys were usually under the mat in the mudroom. Jenna found them. She grabbed her coat. She wasn't a waitress anymore. She wasn't a nanny. She was a woman on a warpath. The grand ballroom of the Drake Hotel was a sea of black ties and designer gowns. A string quartet played softly in the corner, competing with the roar of polite conversation and the clinking of champagne flutes. Grant Harrington stood near the ice sculpture, shaking hands for the 100th time. He felt like a cardboard cutout of himself. He kept glancing at Noah, who was sitting on a velvet chair near the stage, flanked by Miss Grist. The boy looked off. His eyes were glassy. He was swaying slightly in his seat, his mouth hanging open a little. "He's so well behaved tonight," a donor's wife cooed to Grant. "Usually boys that age are running wild." "Yes," Grant muttered, a knot of unease tightening in his stomach. "He's very calm." Tiffany was in her element. She was working the room, laughing at jokes that weren't funny, touching arms, promising galas and luncheons. She looked perfect. "Ladies and gentlemen," the MC's voice boomed over the speakers, "please take your seats. We are about to begin the presentation." The lights dimmed. A spotlight hit the stage. And now, to speak about the future of the Harrington Foundation, please welcome our CEO, Grant Harrington, and his fiancée, Tiffany Roberts. Applause thundered. Tiffany grabbed Grant's hand, beaming. She signaled to Miss Grist. It was time for the family walk. They were supposed to walk onto the stage, holding Noah's hands, presenting a united front. Ms. Grist nudged Noah. "Up!" she hissed. Noah stumbled to his feet. He looked dizzy. He took 2 steps and tripped over his own feet, landing hard on his knees. A ripple of murmurs went through the crowd. Tiffany's smile didn't waver, but her eyes snapped with fury. She swooped down, grabbing Noah by the upper arm, her nails digging into his flesh through the tuxedo fabric. "Get up," she whispered through her teeth, dragging him upright. "Don't you dare ruin this." Grant took Noah's other hand. "Is he okay? He feels warm." "He's fine, just clumsy," Tiffany said loudly, for the benefit of the nearby tables. "Stage fright." They walked up the stairs to the stage. The glare of the spotlights was blinding. Noah squinted, trying to shield his eyes. The drugs were making the lights trail and blur. He felt sick. They reached the podium. Grant stepped up to the microphone. "Thank you all for coming," Grant began, his voice echoing through the hall. "Family is the cornerstone of everything we do." While Grant spoke, Tiffany stood slightly behind him to the left, holding Noah's hand in a vice grip. She thought she was out of the spotlight's main focus. She thought the microphone on the podium only picked up Grant. She didn't know that the lapel microphone clipped to her dress, placed there by the sound technician earlier for her planned thank you speech, was already live. Noah let out a small whimper. "My tummy hurts." "Shut up," Tiffany's voice whispered, crisp and clear through the massive ballroom speakers. Grant stopped speaking mid-sentence. He looked confused, tapping his own mic. The audience shifted comfortably. "I think I'm going to be sick," Noah cried softly. "If you vomit on this dress, I will make you sleep in the cellar," Tiffany hissed. Her voice boomed like the voice of God through the room. "Hold it in, you little brat. Just 5 more minutes, and then I don't care if you die." The silence in the ballroom was absolute. It was heavier than the silence in the restaurant had been. This was the silence of 1,000 people realizing they were witnessing a crime. Grant froze. He turned slowly to look at Tiffany. Tiffany, blinded by the lights, didn't realize the audience could hear her. She saw Grant turn and thought he was cueing her. She smiled, her bright, fake smile. "Smile, Noah," she whispered, giving his arm a savage pinch. "Smile or no dinner for a week." "Tiffany!" Grant's roar didn't need a microphone. He shoved her away from Noah. Tiffany stumbled back in her heels, shock registering on her face. "Grant? What are you—" "The mic." Grant pointed to her chest, his hand shaking with a rage so profound he could barely speak. "It's on." "Everyone heard you." Tiffany looked down at her chest. Then she looked up. The darkness of the auditorium seemed to have eyes now. She saw the horrified faces of the front row. The senator's wife looked like she was about to faint. "I was joking," Tiffany stammered, her laugh high and brittle. "It's a game we play, right, Noah?" Noah didn't answer. His eyes rolled back in his head, and he collapsed sideways. "Noah." But it wasn't Grant who caught him. A figure in a worn denim jacket and jeans sprinted up the stairs from the side of the stage. Jenna had fought past 3 security guards to get into the room. She slid on her knees across the polished stage floor, catching Noah's head just before it hit the wood. "He's burning up!" Jenna yelled, pressing her cheek to his forehead. She looked up at Grant, her eyes blazing. "She drugged him. I found the antihistamines in her lockbox. She sedated him." "That's a lie!" Tiffany shrieked, realizing her empire was crumbling in real time. "Security, get this trash off the stage. She's crazy." "I have the bottle." Jenna reached into her pocket and slammed the half-empty bottle of sedatives onto the podium. It rolled toward Grant, stopping against his hand. Grant picked it up. He read the label. Property of T. Roberts. Prescription only. He looked at the woman he was supposed to marry in 2 months. He saw the vanity, the cruelty, the emptiness. "You drugged my son," Grant said. His voice was dangerously quiet. "He wouldn't stop whining," Tiffany screamed, dropping the facade entirely. "He's a miserable, broken little defect. I was trying to help you, Grant. I was trying to fix your chaotic life. You should be thanking me." "You're done," Grant said. He turned to the security guards who had rushed the stage. "Get her out of here, now." "You can't do this to me." Tiffany struggled as 2 burly guards grabbed her arms. "I am Tiffany Roberts. I made you interesting. You're nothing without me. Grant!" Her screams echoed as she was dragged off the stage, her silver dress catching on a nail and ripping audibly. A final indignity. On the floor of the stage, oblivious to the hundreds of watching eyes, Grant dropped to his knees beside Jenna and Noah. "Is he okay?" Grant asked, his voice breaking. Jenna checked Noah's pulse. "It's slow but steady. He needs a hospital to flush the meds, but he'll be okay." She reached into her pocket and pulled out the smooth grey river stone. She pressed it into Noah's limp hand. "I got it back, buddy," she whispered. "The bad lady is gone." Grant looked at the stone. Then he looked at Jenna. Her hair was messy. She was wearing a coat she'd probably had for 10 years, and she had just humiliated him in front of the entire city, and he had never been more grateful to anyone in his life. "I'm sorry," Grant whispered, tears finally spilling over. "I'm so sorry I didn't see it." Jenna looked up at him, her expression softening. "You see it now. That's what matters." A slow applause started from the back of the room. It wasn't polite applause. It was genuine. It started with one person, then another, until the whole room was standing. They weren't clapping for the billionaire. They were clapping for the waitress who had stormed the castle to save the prince. The sterile beep of the heart monitor was the only sound in the private VIP suite of St. Jude's Hospital. To Grant Harrington, it was the sound of his own failure. Noah was asleep, pale but safe. The doctors promised a full recovery. The sedatives had been strong, but the dehydration from Tiffany's strict regime was the real culprit. Grant sat in the leather chair, head in his hands, his tuxedo jacket discarded on the floor. "The police just left," Grant whispered, his voice cracking. "They charged Tiffany with child endangerment. My lawyers are handling the restraining order. She'll never come near him again." Jenna sat on the edge of the bed, holding Noah's small hand. She hadn't left his side for 3 days. "Good. She needs help, Grant. But she needs to be far away from here." "I didn't know." Grant looked up, his eyes hollow. "I thought I was creating a perfect family. I didn't see that she was destroying him." "Jenna, I can't ask you to stay. Not after I let this happen." Jenna smoothed the hair back from Noah's forehead. "I'm not staying for you, Grant. I'm staying for him. Someone has to be there when he wakes up." When Noah was discharged, he cried as the car turned into the estate's driveway. "Scary house," he whimpered. "It's okay," Jenna promised, squeezing his hand. "We're going to change it." And they did. Grant gave Jenna full authority, and she didn't hesitate. She fired the cold, clinical staff Tiffany had hired and brought back Mrs. Higgins, the old cook who made cookies that smelled like heaven. The sterile, educational rooms were filled with colorful rugs and messy toys. But the biggest change was the routine. Dinner was no longer a silent affair in the formal dining room. It was at 6 p.m. at the kitchen table. The first night Grant joined them, looking out of place in his dress shirt while eating spaghetti. He seemed unsure. "What do we talk about?" "We talk about our day." Jenna smiled, wiping sauce off Noah's chin. "Noah, tell Daddy what we found in the garden." Noah, whose cheeks were finally pink again, beamed. A worm! A big, slimy worm named Mr. Wiggles. Grant blinked. Then a laugh bubbled up from his chest, a genuine rusty sound. Mr. Wiggles? That's a good name. It was a small moment, but it broke the dam. Over the next 6 months, the museum-like chateau became a home. There were muddy footprints in the hall and laughter in the backyard. One rainy Tuesday in November, Jenna was in the kitchen packing a small bag for her day off. Grant walked in, freezing when he saw the luggage. "Leaving?" he asked, tension spiking in his voice. "Just to visit my aunt, Grant. It's my day off," she reassured him. "Right." Grant looked at his coffee, then at her. "Jenna, Noah asked me something this morning. He asked if you were going to be his mommy now." Jenna's heart skipped a beat. "Oh, that's normal. Kids get attached. I can explain the boundaries to him." "I don't want you to explain the boundaries," Grant interrupted, stepping closer. The air in the kitchen shifted, heavy with unsaid words. "I don't want you to be the nanny anymore, Jenna. I haven't wanted that for a long time." "Grant, we come from different worlds," Jenna whispered. "I'm a waitress from Pilsen." "I don't care about the worlds," Grant said firmly. "I care that when you are not here, this house is cold. I care that you saved my son. And I care that I think I'm falling in love with you." Grant reached out and took her hand, the hand that had scrubbed tables and held the worry stone. "Stay," he said, "not as an employee, as family." Tears spilled over Jenna's lashes. She looked at the man who had transformed from a distant CEO into a loving father. "I'm not returning the paycheck," she joked weakly. "I'll double it," Grant smiled, pulling her into his arms. "I don't want the money," she whispered against his chest. "I just want the boys." Upstairs, Noah woke up from his nap. He heard laughter coming from the kitchen. He didn't reach for his worry stone. He rolled over, smiled, and went back to sleep. He didn't need the stone anymore. He had a mum. This story reminds us that the most valuable things in life cannot be bought with a credit card. Grant Harrington had billions of dollars, but he couldn't buy his son's happiness or peace of mind. It took Jenna, a woman with nothing but a kind heart and a river stone, to see what a perfect life was hiding. It teaches us that children don't need expensive toys, organic diets, or perfect appearances. They need presence, patience, and unconditional love. We must always look deeper than the surface, for sometimes the people with the least to give are the ones who can save us. Thank you for watching this story. If Jenna's bravery touched your heart, please hit that like button to support the channel. What would you have done if you were in the restaurant that day? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a story that moves you. Share this video with someone who needs a reminder that kindness is the greatest wealth of all. See you in the next video.